Hello, third grade, and welcome to topic 5. In this topic, we're going to be working on learning how to multiply and divide within 100. For lesson 1, we're going to work on multiplication facts. And we're going to look at different patterns of multiplication facts that we find in our multiplication chart. I'll show you what that looks like in just a moment and how to use it. Let's go ahead and start with our short video lesson.
You can use a multiplication table to help you find patterns. How can you explain patterns in the multiplication chart? Think about this question during the lesson. Yolanda noticed that 4 times 6 is double 2 times 6. How can you explain this? How is 2 related to 4? What is the same in the facts 4 times 6 and 2 times 6?
Now notice how they got to those products. So you have the 6 up here, and then you have the 2 over here. So what you're going to do when you're working with a multiplication chart or multiplication table, whichever you prefer to call it, is you're going to trace across your factors to see where they meet. And that number where they meet is going to be their product. So think about, how is 2 related to 4? And then how is the product of 2 times 6 related to the product of 4 times 6? Look at the numbers, see what you notice about those numbers. How are they related to each other?
4 is equal to 2 groups of 2. In both facts, 4 times 6 and 2 times 6, one of the factors is 6. 4 is the double of 2. So 4 times 6 is double 2 times 6. Properties can be used to understand a pattern and to find out if the pattern is always true. You can use the distributive property of multiplication to explain why 4 times 6 is double 2 times 6. What does the distributive property of multiplication say? The distributive property of multiplication says multiplication facts can be broken apart into the sum of other multiplication facts. Which is a correct way to use the distributive property with 4 times 6?
Select your answer.
Use the distributive property to explain why 4 times 6 is double 2 times 6. Look at the 2 highlighted rows. The product of any number multiplied by 4 will be double the product of that number multiplied by 2. How can you use the distributive property to show that this pattern is true for other products that have 2 and 4 as a factor? You can show that this is true with other facts, such as 4 times 9 is equal to 2 times 9 plus 2 times 9 is equal to 18 plus 18 is equal to 36. Now you know how to use the distributive property to explain patterns in the multiplication chart.
Good job!
Okay, that takes us to the end of our short video lesson. Now I'm going to switch over to our notes before we get into our guided practice. And I'm also going to show you a multiplication chart that I'll have available for you guys in the classroom. And I'll also upload a copy of it into Google Classroom so that you can download it and use it from home in case you need it. So for our notes, for 5-1, patterns for multiplication facts. So you can use a multiplication chart to help you find the products of numbers. This also helps you to easily see patterns in those numbers because all of those numbers are laid out for you. Now, a multiplication chart looks like this. So this is your 1 to 12 multiplication chart, and it shows all of the facts from 1 to 12. Now on this one, the ones in the gray boxes are the numbers you get when you multiply a number by itself. So 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 2 is 4, 3 times 3 is 9, and so on. The way this works is you're going to have your factors across the top bar and down on the left side. And you're going to see where they match up, where they overlap, and that's going to be where your product is. So if I want to find the product of 2 and 7, I'm going to trace my 2 all the way across, and I'm going to trace my 7 down, and the number where they meet is going to be my product. So 2 times 7 is equal to 14. 3 times 5, same thing. I'm going to trace across until my numbers meet. 3 times 5 gives me 15. You can do this with your fingers. You can do it with a ruler or 2 pieces of paper to kind of help you line those up so that they're easy for you to spot those products. Now, taking a look at our notes, the example that I gave you guys is the product of 2 times 3 and 4 times 3 are related because 4 times 3 is double 2 times 3. So how do you know this? Explain and show your work. So I can use the distributive property to show 4 times 3, where I take the 4 and I break it apart into 2 plus 2. So this becomes 2 times 3 plus another 2 times 3. I know 2 times 3 is 6, plus another 2 times 3 is another 6. 6 plus 6 gives me 12. So 4 times 3 is also going to be equal to 12. I can use a multiplication chart or multiplication table to also find this information. So if I have 2 times 3 over here is 6, so I trace it across, remember, to find my answers, or 4 times 3, I trace it across, and that's 12. Now, since 4 is double 2, anything times 4 is going to be double anything times 2 because it's twice as much. And remember, trace down from the number on top and across from the number on the left, and then the number where you land on, where they meet, is going to be your product. So your factors are the numbers that are across the top and across that left side. So that row that goes on the far left side and that very top column are your factors. And then the numbers over here that are in the middle, those are going to be the products of those different numbers. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at our guided practice questions. And I wrote them out here so that we're not having to flip back and forth between the book and our notes. Our first question asks, how are 3 times 7 and 6 times 7 related? Now I know 6 times 7 is double 3 times 7 because the distributive property tells us I can break that 6 into 3 and 3. So since 6 is double 3, 6 times 7 is going to be double whatever 3 times 7 is. If I break it apart into 3 times 7 plus 3 times 7, or 2 times 3 times 7, I know 3 times 7 is 21, and 6 times 7 is 42. We know 42 is twice as much as 21. It's double. For number 2, is the doubling pattern true for factors multiplied by 3 and 6? Explain. So yes, absolutely, because 6 is double 3. So the products that you find with 6 as a factor are going to be twice as much as the products you find with 3 as a factor. So if I have 2 times 3 is 6, 2 times 6 is 12. 12 is twice as much as 6. It's double that. Number 3, what pattern do you see in the columns and rows that have 0 as a factor? So we know based on our 0 property that any number times 0 is 0. And it says use a property to explain this pattern, why this pattern is true. The 0 property of multiplication tells me that any number multiplied by 0 is equal to 0. Now you will have some multiplication tables that'll have the 0 column, but again, everything down that column and across that row with 0 will always be 0. So sometimes you're going to get a multiplication table that looks like this, where they skip the 0, since the product will always be 0 anyway. That takes you to the end of this lesson. Again, I'm going to upload a copy of the multiplication chart for you guys. I'll also give you guys a copy in the classroom. That way you can utilize it. In case you can't find it, these are usually really easy to find online as well. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I hope you have an amazing day. Take care. Bye-bye.